Oh, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Um, I have a new tripod over here with a light ring. So we're going to, as always, we're trying something new and a little different. I haven't been on live in quite a while. If you follow along with my newsletter, you know that we have been under remodel for quite a long time. But the last couple of months have been really hard and heavy in the kitchen. And as of last weekend, we don't have water in there. We are officially doing the dishes in the utility room, in the laundry, the utility sink in the laundry room, and we are right now. You might hear some noise out in the other room. Good morning, Colleen. I gotta fix this. This is not staying up. Ooh, my tripod is falling down. I'm gonna make everybody seasick. Oh my gosh. Okay, there we go. But anyway, the drywall guys are over here doing the retexture where we repaired the drywall. Oh my goodness. I don't know what it wants. It says to rotate the device. Does it want me to be this way? YouTube used to hate it when you did that. But now it's telling me to do that. Oh my god. And now I have to like reaching to do all these things. You know, I love technology. And sometimes I don't. Okay. Enough fussing around. That's 2 minutes of fussing around. I want to talk to you about 6 pro tips for improving, elevating your crochet. And I'm going to get into my computer because I have some notes over here that I want to be able to reference. I've got my coffee as always. And I posted this blog post yesterday. I've been working on it in the back of my mind for a while, and I finally yesterday was like, just post the thing. Oh my gosh, that is tipping. It doesn't want to stay. Oh my gosh. But there are some things about our crochet, and they certainly, oh my soul, it is. I'm watching the camera go like this. Can you see it? See how my head's getting closer to the top? Oh my soul, people. Oh my god, I hope you're laughing with me because okay, now it says I'm sideways. Am I vertical now, Colleen? This is not working. I'm going to have to do this totally different. Okay, I'm going to put my phone over here. There, back the way I used to do it. Just propped up on the corner here. Sometimes you just got to go old school. All right, Colleen, I cannot see if you are... Okay, here we go. Live chat. All right. Yeah, I know. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever. I don't know what it wants. All right. Am I still sideways or am I right side up now? Okay, good. It used to be that YouTube wanted me to record with my phone horizontal, but now it's telling me to do it vertical. So I don't know what it's doing. Anyway, 6 pro tips to elevate your crochet and to make it just a little bit, just that next little bit better. So I posted about this on the blog yesterday, and I will end up linking that blog post to this and this to the blog post. So they go like, you know, it all connects. But I want to walk through them and talk about them a little bit. The first one is to use good quality yarn. And if any of you have followed me for any period of time, you know that I advocate using good quality yarn. But also using yarn that is appropriate for your project, right? I don't expect every sweater to be made out of llama, even though llama lace is my favorite yarn for everything. But understanding what a yarn is for. There are some really nice acrylic yarns. I mean, if you're making an Afghan for a grandkid and it's going to end up on the floor and drug around and in the car, don't use don't use the really high expensive stuff. But you also have to enjoy what it feels like in your hands. So understanding the difference between the craft yarns, craft store yarns, and other yarns. I will caveat that and say that there are a lot of craft yarns that are getting better and better because more and more of the manufacturers are cross manufacturing. And there are a couple of brands that they make this yarn over here and they package it different, or they put different labels on it to sell it in different types of environments. And as a yarn store, that can be a little bit frustrating for me. But I do want you to not be afraid to use a little bit higher quality yarn in the right place, okay? And then another thing, and a point I make in my post, is that good quality yarn doesn't necessarily mean that it's expensive. There are some good quality yarns that aren't terribly expensive. And let's see, what else does it say? Oh, when you use the right quality of yarn, even your most simple and basic projects are actually going to look better. So keep that in mind as well. And those are things you kind of play with. And a lot of that is very, it's a very personal decision. It's a personal choice about what look and effect you're going for and what you like. You know, we all have that different opinion of what looks good, right? We're going through that with our kitchen and the finishes of things that are in our kitchen. You know, we're not gonna have one of those highly polished glossy kitchens that you see on HGTV. We don't have those long handle pulls. I don't like drawer pulls. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I just personally don't like them because I have a tendency to crash into them and bang my hip and tear my clothes. And so I don't want drawer pulls. Our wood cabinets, they're not a high gloss color everywhere. It's wood, and it's the rustic wood with the knots and everything. So they look really rustic, and for other people that looks unfinished. So keep that personal perspective in mind, okay? But also, when you use a good quality yarn, you are elevating your own self as a human being. You are reminding yourself that you are worth it. Even if you're making this item as a gift, your experience as a crocheter, you matter. And I want you to feel that in your hand. And I want it to feel good. And I want you to feel good using it. We've talked in the past about thinking about the quality of yarn the way we think about jeans, right? Denim. Jeans are jeans are jeans, right? Well, not really, but they all serve kind of a different purpose. Your Levi's are not the same thing as your Carhartts, and your Miss Me jeans are not the same thing as some other brands that I don't even know because I'm not that fashion conscious. So you've got to think about its purpose, its intention, and your personal style, okay, and what's happening with that before you make a judgment on what is a good quality yarn. I also think that in elevating your crochet, item number 2 in the blog post is to execute your stitches correctly and well. Tension and gauge are huge. I see a lot of people that are way too tight in their biting their stitches, or they're way too loose, and things just kind of sag and are open, and they don't have the structure that crochet typically has. So learning how to execute your stitches to suit the project is really, really important. Learning to make your movements evenly and consistently, so that way your all of your stitches are the same height, they're the same width. That is really important. Also, certain techniques about how we make a stitch. You know, when an instruction says to yarn over, are you putting the yarn from the back up over the top of the hook, or are you putting the yarn from the back under the hook and then over the top of it to the back again? These things matter. They actually matter. And when you're following instructions, there is a standard and a protocol for the way that stitches are made. And it's not that you are necessarily doing it wrong. You are doing a thing. You are doing an actual legitimate advanced crochet technique that you didn't know you were doing. You're just not calling it the right thing. You're not using the language, and that's going to come up. Language is going to come up a little bit later in this talk. But that's super important, is understanding when an instruction says to insert the hook in a particular place. Do you know what that means? And are you doing it the way that they are asking you to? Because that will change the way that your stitches look. So, oh, Lynn, oh, tension, yes. Yeah, you might try, Lynn, just going up a hook size if you tend to be a really tight stitcher. I am a really tight stitcher. I make very tight, very even, very uniform machine-like stitches. And I used to have a lot of hand and wrist pain as a result. So try going up a hook size and see if that helps at all. I see a few comments coming through, but unfortunately they don't like to stay up, and then they cover my face, and I don't know what I'm doing. So, but learning to work your stitches correctly. You can go on to my YouTube channel, scroll back and look through some of my basics. The Crochet Basics series is going to walk you through really, 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 really basics, step by step, like methodically. I recorded those in what I refer to as my meditation teacher voice, and I'm very quiet, and we're very methodical, and we repeat it over and over and over, because that repetitiveness is also going to help you to elevate your stitching. The more you can do and repeat those stitches consistently in a way that is ergonomic for your body, the happier you are going to be, the less you're going to deal with injury in your shoulders, wrists, elbows, neck, all that kind of thing. So sometimes that is changing things. I've had to learn to hold my hook this way, where my instinct, the way I learned, is this way. And sometimes I have to crochet this way because I have some arthritis and a finger in my wrist bugs me sometimes. So those are all little things and those things, when you make those changes and adjustments for your own well-being, they do impact your tension and your gauge, which is not a problem. It's not wrong. But understanding and expecting that and knowing when to implement that on purpose. I want you to have those skill sets and know how to do those things on purpose, not stumble upon it accidentally and then find yourself thinking, oh, how did I get here? How did my project end up looking like this? You're going to be able to look at this and know, oh, I changed the way I was sitting. I changed the way that I held my hands, and I can see where that changed, because you're starting to look at your work, and you're learning and you're reading it. We talk about that some as well. Another thing in elevating your crochet is choosing the right hook for the yarn. And this is another thing where people can struggle. I hear a lot of times people will talk about a yarn being splitty. And a lot of times, if a yarn does not have a tight twist, it can be very easy to catch the fiber fragments to it. But a lot of times it's our technique. A lot of times it's the type of hook that we are using. Some hooks, excuse me, some hooks have a little bit more of a pointed tip to the head, which allows us to get in a little bit more precisely and crisply, especially into tighter stitches. Some of them have more a rounded shape tip on the head, which, especially for bigger, softer, fluffier things, it can get through better without piercing the yarn. Also, the shape of the crook, that's the part of the hook that catches the yarn. Some of them are a little bit more shaped and tapered and cradle, and some of them are a little bit crisp and sort of just cut in, angular. And some of this impacts our ergonomics, and some of our ergonomics impact how that particular hook is going to work. So I suggest, if you're struggling with things like splitting and struggling to get your hook in, also consider trying some different styles of hook. I personally am an old school boy crochet hook fan. They don't make them the same anymore. They have a much more rounded shape to the head anymore. They don't have a nice point on the end of them. So I snag them when I can find them at yard sales and secondhand stores, because I don't like the new ones. But for some people, an ergonomic handle is much more important for them. So don't feel like one crochet hook is the thing. Also, the material that your hook is made out of. I tend to stick with metal. I'm that way with my knitting needles as well. I liked metal, but wood is really good. And if you're working with slippery yarns, wood needles and wood crochet hooks have in and of themselves more friction to them. Same thing with plastic. So if you're working with a super slippery yarn, using a hook that has a little bit of grip of its own can help you control those stitches from getting too loopy. Okay. All right. So I'm really going deeper into this than I thought I was going to. Not too surprising, really. I'm really passionate about this, and I want you to have a really excellent experience with your stitching, and I want to give you as much information as I can and encouragement. All right, here's a big one for crocheters in particular. Stop using Red Heart Super Saver for everything. You know what? I'm a fan of Red Heart Super Saver. I have a tub full of it in the craft closet because it has a place. It really, really does. But it isn't for everything. And worsted weight isn't for everything. We get this idea that it's faster. In some ways it kind of is. It's faster, it's easier, or whatever. But crochet, in and of itself, crochet makes a thicker fabric and a thicker stitch than knitting does. And then when you use a thicker yarn, you exponentially have a thicker fabric. And you end up with these things that are chunky and big. And if you're trying to make something that's wearable like a sweater, it can be very not comfortable. If you're trying to make a top, a cute top, it can feel like you're actually going around with an Afghan wrapped around you. And that might be fine if you're looking for that big, bulky, fluffy, chunky sweater. That's fine. But if you're not, if you're going for that cute summer top, that's not fun. You want something lighter. Don't be afraid of smaller yarn. It's going to make your experience so much better. I promise. I really promise. And if you're afraid to try that, do something small and unintimidating, okay? Do a scarf or a small shawl that the gauge doesn't matter as much. and give it a try. And also, I would let you know that you will be very, very surprised that just because the yarn is small, the structure of the yarn is small, don't think that you have to use those super teeny tiny steel crochet hooks that are super tiny and you can't hardly see the tip on. You don't. I use fingering weight yarn a lot, and I use a size hook that is commonly used with worsted weight. It depends on the stitch. It really does. It depends a lot on the stitch and the structure of what you're doing. So think outside the box a little bit, experiment with some things. I have a couple of patterns that we do that with. The Down the Rabbit Hole cowl is crocheted with a fingering weight yarn, but we're using a larger hook. Also the free pattern, I think it's the Grace, the green one. You can find it in the online store. That one is a DK weight yarn, but you're using like a size J crochet hook. But because of the stitch technique that we're doing, it works, and it's surprisingly awesome. So don't overthink that. All right. Another thing that is going to elevate your stitching experience is to please check your gauge. All right. Um, do a gauge swatch, because going back to what I was saying about the size yarn and the size hooks, we can kind of get stuck in these combinations that we just do. And I want you to play with things and try some different things so that you understand how you can make different types of fabric. And that's really super exciting. That's really empowering for you as a stitcher to have that control and know what you can play with to get different effects. You can do the same pattern over and over again, use different yarns, different hooks, and get different effects. And it's really amazing. All right, here's another good one. Choose good colors. All of us have seen Afghans at yard sales and secondhand stores. They can't even give them away for free because they're so ugly. Now, if you're making something intentionally that you know the kids are dragging it around, they're going to take it out back to the fort, or you just have buckets of yarn and you're trying to just use up stash. I did this when my kids were little, and I gave them each a bucket or a bag or something. I said, here, dig around in the stash, fill this bag with yarn, I'll turn it into an Afghan. And we lovingly refer to those as the ugly Afghans, because they really were some odd color combinations that my kids came up with. They loved them, so there you go. Fine and dandy. But if you're creating an heirloom and you want this piece to be something that's going to be loved and relevant 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, think about your color choices carefully. There are color wheels and there's color theory and things that you can learn about how to bring colors together so that they're timeless and classic. I am a strong believer in that. It takes just as many hours to crochet a thing with good yarn and beautiful colors as it does with not. But the end result is so much different. That's just the thing there. All right. And my last thing is we'll go back to where I was at the beginning, the language. Learn to read patterns. Learn to read your stitches. Understanding when a designer says to insert the hook around the post of a stitch. Do you know what that means? If you don't, let's get in and look at that. Post stitches. I have a tutorial on that. It's from my white cabled beanie hat, and you can see, and I walk you through post stitches and how to create cables. And you need to know the language. It is a language, and it's standardized. There's a standardization for it, and it's very specific. And if you are not speaking the same language as the pattern writer, you're going to struggle to get the outcome. You're going to struggle to create a piece that looks like the picture. So I want you to learn that. And when, you know, I write my patterns very detailed and very specifically to address some of that. Um, and I try to add that, especially in the free patterns that I use for teaching you, and in my video tutorials. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you in a lot of them. I talk about, you know, insert the hook here, not here. You might think it goes here, but it actually goes here. So watch my videos, check them out. I would love it if you haven't yet. Subscribe to this. You know, by the way, and I think I did it again. I kicked right in. I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Susie Quillen. I'm the Empress of Yarn here at Perfectly Knotty. I am on a mission to help you elevate and love your crochet experience, and just enjoy that whole experience, even just 1% better than last time. Head over to perfectlyknotty.com, Knotty. You can sign up for my weekly newsletter. I send a newsletter every Thursday afternoon with something encouraging, some tips, sometimes a video tutorial or a free pattern, awesome yarn, cool, just being human together. And I would love it if you'd join me there. Subscribe to this channel and make sure you do click that little notification bell, so that way you get notified when I go live or if I upload a video. I really would love to have you join in what we're creating here. I'd love to hear from you. So there you go. I'm going to take a look now and see if there's any comments that popped in that I didn't see as they went by. Nope, I think I commented on everything. Colleen and Lynn, I really in particular want to thank you for commenting and joining in on the conversation. If there are any other questions that anybody would like to ask in regards to some pro tips, little ways to elevate your crochet and make it a little bit better, I'd love to hear about it, and we can talk about that some more, but I don't want to keep you any longer. It's already been almost a half an hour, except for the first 3 or so minutes of seasickness from me trying to make my camera stand up. So I always appreciate everybody's willingness to stick with me. You know, I'm not super polished. I don't have a studio. I don't have a staff. It's just me with my cell phone propped up over here on my desk, trying to help you have an awesome crochet life. Okay, so perfectlyknotty.com, sign up. Go into the online store, check out the free patterns I have available for you. And I really, really hope to see you creating beautiful things. All right. Have an awesomely beautiful day, everybody. Bye.